Last week during our lake effect storm coverage, I briefly showed this photo of a snow roller, but I want to spend a little bit more time with it because the conditions that came together to make that happen are actually pretty uncommon. That's this week's Heather's Weather Wise. Dawn was the viewer that sent us this photo, which I shared on my Facebook and Twitter feeds. She sent it to us from Franklinville, but we got a couple of other photos of these snow rollers from other places in the southern tier. So it wasn't just a fake and it wasn't just an isolated incident. Like I said, the conditions that all came together had to happen at the right time. Let's start by recapping Friday's weather. It was kind of bonkers, which isn't that odd around here in the wintertime. The official high temperature for the day was 40 degrees, but that was at midnight. By sunrise that morning, temperatures were in the low 30s, and by the afternoon, most places were in the 20s. Before we even got to Friday's weather, though, there was already a pretty decent snowpack in western New York, especially in the southern tier. Most places had at least 10 inches on the ground. But even before that, there was a lot of melting and refreezing going on, so that snowpack was pretty solid, even icy in some spots. Now we go back to Friday morning. The day started with a mix of rain and snow. There was just enough to accumulate inland from the lake and just enough moisture so that the snowflakes could glom together, but not so much that it all just melted into a slush. Now there was a loose layer of snow sitting on top of a much harder snowpack underneath. The final ingredient for these snow rollers? Something to, well, get the snow rolling. Widespread, sustained winds over a relatively wide open space. Now, the winds in places like Franklinville and Strikersville, where we saw the photos of the snow rollers last week, the winds weren't quite as strong inland as compared to, say, somewhere in Buffalo or in Dunkirk, but the wind was persistent enough to push the snow up and to eventually get it to roll over itself. In some cases, these little rollers traveled far enough to actually make a little path. So it turns out that snow rollers, like so many other weather phenomena like lake effect, a rainbow, or a tornado, are really just a freak accident of nature. By the way, if you ever want to send us a weather photo, there's a bunch of ways you can do that. A lot of the pictures that we show are uploaded using the Near Me feature on the WGRZ app, but of course, you got Facebook, Twitter, and email as well. That's it for this week's Heather's Weather Wise. I'll see you next week with a new topic, but until then, remember it's good to be a geek.